Pauli and Jung, is all about C.G. Jung's collaboration with his friend Wolfgang Pauli. Pauli was a Nobel Prize-winning founder of quantum physics. He was a mainstream and influential physicist, as mainstream and influential as one can get. For example, he was nominated for a Nobel Prize by Albert Einstein. Jung and Pauli worked together to create the theory of synchronicity. So here I am, experiencing the second of two back-to-back, very personally meaningful synchronicities, while holding a book about Pauli and Jung's collaboration in creating the theory of synchronicity. It was just too rich for me. Jung and Pauli were convinced that the archetypes could not only influence the imagery within our minds, but could somehow also influence physical material reality. And fun fact, the word material and matter come from the same root as Maya and mother, so this wasn't exactly a new idea. What was new was that two of the world's most brilliant men of science were working on a theory about the relationship between mind and matter. Pauli himself experienced frequent synchronicities, and he figured there must be a scientific explanation. Both men thought it would be possible to create a scientific theory explaining how the archetypes are the fundamental creative principle within our internal mental world, called the psyche, and also the fundamental creative principle in the physical exterior world of matter. Pauli and Jung corresponded for decades right up to Pauli's death. Together they wrote The Interpretation of Nature and the Psyche. Timothy Desmond's recent book, Psyche and the Singularity, is a great revisiting of Pauli and Jung's work and how it might relate to current-day cutting-edge physics. Desmond gives a helpful summary of some of Pauli and Jung's key ideas. Pauli and Jung postulated that our psyche and the physical world stem from one realm. In this realm, matter, space, and time emerge, and the archetypes exist in a pure, unrepresented state. This theory of an underlying unity underneath the physical world and the psychological world they call the Unus Mundus, which means one world in Latin. In other words, the physical world and the psychic mental world are two aspects of the same thing. Pauli and Jung thought it was likely that the laws of physics could provide a map for the laws of psychology. They assumed that we can infer unknown laws of psychology by looking at parallel laws in physics and vice versa. An encounter with the archetypes can happen in both the psychological world and the physical world simultaneously, because it is all one world. A sense of wonder and meaning is experienced when this happens. We call that synchronicity. A full-on Circuit 7 activation means that one sees the external world and our internal world as having no distinction. It's all an ongoing, unified flow of experience. Any dividing line between the two is purely imaginary. Living with an open awareness of the Unus Mundus is like floating down a river. One's experience of life becomes a waking dream, rich in layers of meaning. The river is the Tao, as described in the mythical writings of Chinese legendary sage Lao Tzu. The flow of life is like water. If this life water is blocked, one's relationship to life becomes antagonistic and harmful, despite what happens. If this life water is allowed to flow, one's relationship to life will be peaceful, despite what happens.